Hello and welcome to Riverside Crafts this afternoon. I'm Ray and we're going to be looking at this set of stamps here by Creative Expressions. Really nice set of stamps, really can play with them, which is what I like to do. And I'm going to be making this. I'll show you a couple of different techniques. I'm going to be doing some masking and some pattern building, just to show you how it works, and obviously colouring in with some distress inks just to finish it off. Right, so I'm going to put this out of the way a minute and get my pieces of card out that I've got. This is watercolour stock, cardstock, and it is 10 centimetres by 15, just in case you were wondering. Hi Lynn, thanks for watching. Hi Janet, thank you. Nice to see you. Hope you're all right. Right, now I'm going to take my stamps off of here and I'm going to stamp my bee first of all. Hello Paul, I can see. Alright, so my bee's going to go on first of all and I'm going to put it where I want it on my piece of paper. Alright, so I'm going to bring down my stamp platform to pick it up. So it's now held in the side. And I'm going to use Riverside Clair because it is a pigment ink and it won't run when I'm using it with watercolour. Okay, so here we go. Let's just give it a good tap across, and I can put it down there. Give it a good press so it's nicely covered. That's a light. You see how clean it prints? It's beautiful. Right, now I'm going to do my masking. I'm going to use a post-it note, mainly because it's a quick and easy and a cheap way of doing a quick mask. I'm going to just put it over my bit of cardstock where it was, so that I know where I want to do the stamp, so that I'm going to get what I want to do. Okay, so now that's my mask stamped. I'm just going to cut this out before I get too excited. A pair of scissors would be good, wouldn't it? Hi Heather, hi Nicole and Rosalind, nice to see you. I hope you're nice and warm and tucked up in your houses, and this been a bit of a grey day, hasn't it? And that's this today on Saturday, and I hope you don't mind that I'm going to be moving to Saturdays predominantly now for a little while, just to make life a bit easier coming up to Christmas for getting my things sorted and everything else. So I hope that's not causing anybody too many problems. Okay, we're nearly there now. You could also use a paint masking fluid, similar to what Pebeo drawing gum is, to do this. But sometimes it's nice to have a mask that you can just sort of move around quite quickly, to do multiple prints quite quickly off something. So this is quite a nice way. You can also buy a product called Mask It, which we do have in the shop, but I forgot to pick it up this week, so I've gone back to the old-fashioned way of using a post-it. Make sure when you stamp it, you actually keep them, you sort it out so that the part, the sticky bit on the edge of the stamp on the post-it, you need to keep that on part of your stamp, otherwise it won't work. Okay, so don't just put it anywhere on the post-it. You need to make sure you've got a large part of the sticky bit at the top. While I'm thinking about it, otherwise it won't work for you, and that would be a shame. Right. Because these masks are very much reusable, and when I'm doing my masks, I tend to take off, as you can see, multiple ones, so that if I want to do some masking on, do things a bit later, a bit more complicated, I've got spare masks. Right, so that's going to go on there, like so. And as you can see, it blocks out my image quite nicely. Now, I'm going to do some pattern building, and it's not so easy to do on here. So I'm actually going to go back to doing it with stamping block for a minute, just so that you can see what I'm doing. Right, so I'm going to use their hexagons, and as you can see, it doesn't really, it's not going to go very far when you look at how many I've put on there. So this is my pattern building bit. So that's going to go on my block. I'm going to ink it up again with the VersaFine Clair, because that just helps. Right, let's put this here, and I'm just going to put myself a piece. I'm going to, because I've got my mask on, I can actually go over where the wings and things are, and I'm not going to be putting marks on it. It's going to give, I'm going to be able to, when I lift it off, it's going to look like the wing is just sort of in the way, is there just hanging around quite nicely. Now I'm pattern building, so I'm going to be putting this down again, but I'm going to match it up, which means that I need to be able to look at, so if you see my head come into camera, I do apologise, it's because I'm looking over the top of my stamp to make sure that I am lining it up as best as I can. Okay, so that you get a nice sort of continuation of what you're doing, and it sort of brings it in quite nicely. Okay, I'm going to come down the bottom. Okay, and we're going to carry on with them going in the same sort of direction, coming off the page as well, because that's quite good. It looks nice on a card or on your art journal and your scrapbook if you don't necessarily stay all the time on the page. If you move things about a bit and you have them going sort of different places, it tends to look quite nice. Oop, that was nearly. I'm just going to come across here and do a little bit going down there. That one on. Okay, so I've got my pattern built now, going across my block quite nicely. I'm just going to put my sentiment on. Oh, stamps here. Here we go. And I'm going to use the Queen Bee one. As you can see, there are quite a few stamps actually on the stamp sheet, so you've got quite a lot to play with, which is quite nice. And bits, so some really pretty bits to play with, which is it's a nice stamp set to play with. You've got a lot of different options to do, which is good. Put this one up here. So I'm just going to place that there. And hi Peggy and hi Brenda, thank you for joining. Okay, now you can see if I'd got this on my block, on my stamping platform, where the Queen isn't perfectly stamped, I would have actually been able to go over and back and do that properly, but I haven't. But what I'll do is I'll show you a quick trick later. So now I'm going to lift off this, and as you can see, my bee is perfect. There's none of my hexagons that are behind it have come in at all, which is quite nice. So that's quite good. Right, so we're going to do some painting, a little bit of painting. Now you don't need very many colours to do a bee, which is quite nice. You're just looking for yellows and blacks and going from there. Now I'm going to use 2 yellows so that I get a darker yellow on the edges of it. So I'm using Distress Inks, and they are Fossilised Amber and Wild Honey. And although they don't look that much different possibly on the palette, they are quite different when they're actually in sort of real place. Now you just see me dump my brush in the water. I'm going to also put it onto a tissue and dab some of the excess water off so that I don't get too much water on everything. So I'm just going to come in here and pull out this is the paler one of the two. So this is your Wild Honey, and I'm just putting it on. Keeping it in the lines. One of the nice things about Distress Inks is they move quite nicely, and you get sort of quite a nice finish with them. Just add a little bit more water to my brush. Dab some off again so I don't get too much on it. If you feel that it's going scratchy on the watercolour card, it means that your brush is too dry. And it does sort of feel that way occasionally when you're doing things, so that's quite good. But any questions you've got, if they aren't being answered by Caroline as she goes along, I will attempt to answer them at the end for you. I can't really do it while I'm doing this because I can't concentrate on everything at once, I'm afraid. I'm not able to do that multitasking. So hi Hannah, and I will look at your question a bit later, my lovely. Okay, and I will write you an answer. And that. Okay, so we're doing quite nicely now. We're getting this yellow in quite well. A bit more water. And you don't have to be incredibly neat. So it doesn't matter if you leave white bits inside the honeycomb. It doesn't matter if you've got bits that aren't perfectly painted in, because those little bits add highlights in and it looks quite nice at the end. It just gives you a bit more of a textural feel to what you're doing. Right. Now I'm going to add in a little bit of the darker yellow, so I'm just wiping my brush off a bit. I'm going to add it all on one side so it gives a sort of sense of shadow. So I'm not putting it everywhere. And now you can see that it is quite a bit darker, can't you? Okay, I'm just putting it on one edge. And that, some of it, and in a minute I'm going to go back and blend some of it out so it's not quite so harsh on one edge of it in a minute. So wipe my brush off, a little bit less water. I'm just going to come into the edges and just sort of drag it slightly with a damp brush so that you don't get that line that, and it just sort of pulls it in, if that makes sense. Okay, one brush again. Just going to pull that in so it comes in nicely. Same with that one. You see how it blends it off so you don't end up with all those lines that you've just, which makes it look sort of quite a bit more natural to what you're doing. But it's quite a nice quick way to paint this. It's not sort of taking too long about it all, and you're not sort of doing it too heavily either. You're sort of giving it a bit of time to just sort of catch in, and distress inks are quite forgiving, which is nice. Right, just wash my brush again, take it in, and just going to take the edges off those lines so that they don't look like they're there anymore, and pull it in a bit. Just gently wiggling my brush along those edges just takes that line out and makes it blend a bit more. And that's all I'm doing, is very gentle little circles with a wiggle on my brush, and that does it. So that now gives me a sense of depth in my bits. I'm going to just put the yellow on where I think I want it on my bee. So I'm just going to put my yellow stripes in for a minute, and I'm not going to put them in very heavy. I'm just sort of loosely laying them on at the moment, just so I know where they are, and I don't go and paint them black. Okay, right, so now I'm going to bring the black in. Now your black you're going to take your time with, because if you put it all on too heavy, you're going to end up with it looking quite as though you've sort of forgotten. But also you can come on quite light, because black will, as a watercolour, will just sort of disappear quite happily for you and be a lot more grey than what you realise. So you don't get that nice perfect tone. Hi Kay, welcome to Riverside Crafts today. I hope you enjoy watching what I'm playing with today. So I'm using the Creative Expression stamps. These ones were designed by Benita Moby, and I have to say they're really cute. We've got a couple of different sets in at the moment, and they're very nice. And they're nice to play with. You could use them really happily in your art journal because they're sort of nice and bits. You can use part of them on your scrapbooking, which would look really cool. And again, you can use them like I'm doing here to do cards for people. Bees are really in at the moment, aren't they? They're very much the part of everything at the minute. They're the thing. All the crockery's out with bees on it, and t-shirts and everything else. So bees are everything at the minute. Very fashionable. I think the word is on trend, isn't it? I'm not very good at these things. I don't tend to think about those bits, I'm afraid. Right, so I'm just going to leave that like that for a minute. And I'm going to put my legs in. I'm just going to take them sort of down. Not just bringing them down in a minute. And there is another one up here. There we go. Right, let's put a little bit more darkness down this edge. And on that one, give the bee his rounded body. Leaving some of the white along the edge there, along the centre line, gives you the sense of highlighting and gives you the sense that actually just the bee is part of, it's highlighting it for you, which looks quite nice then. Right, let's put the yellow in now. I'm just going to put some more wild honey on my palette because I want to get a nice deep bit on the edges here. So I'm just going to put some really on the darker bit on the edges, again like I did with the black, giving me my sense of shape to my bee. Okay, wash my brush for a moment, and I'm just going to wiggle the brush there to get those edges so I don't end up with it looking too. So there's my bee painted, but the wings look a little bit anemic, so I'm just going to put some tumbled glass on, but I'm going to put it on with a Crafter's Companion sparkle pen. Now this is the clear sparkle, so it's I can use it with everything. And you might think, oh, I mustn't put it onto another ink and pick it up because it's going to do it. One of the really good things about these is the colour, that whatever colour it is you've picked up, it will just wash out as you're going along, so it won't affect what's inside your pen at all. So you can actually just sort of use it to just pull out the colour and add a little bit of shimmer while you're doing it, which is quite nice. And when you've run out, they make a really good water brush, so don't bin them. Just just wash them and you've got a nice, as you can see, look, nibs clean again, no problems, which is really nice. Okay, so how do I fix my queen? Because I managed to put not stamp it out properly. Black fine liner very carefully. And I'm just going to sort of push in where I've missed and colour it a bit, just to give it a bit more of a so it just looks a bit more. So if you haven't got your self-stamp platform yet, this is how you fix that little bit of a mistake, which I do on regular, I'm afraid. So there's my bee, and then I put him onto a little bit of black card and some bright yellow, which is not a colour I would normally use. I'm not really a yellow person, but I have to say I quite like it. It looks nice with this. So it's a nice simple one, very quick today. Not too many problems, not too difficult to do. And I hope you found it interesting, and I will be back next week with something else. So please join me then. Take care, and bye from Riverside Crafts. By the way, just so to quickly say that this will be put back up so you can catch up with it and watch it again later. All right then, bye bye.